Hello, folks! Welcome to Jack Reviews Musicals. If this is your first time seeing my face, hi, my name is Jack and I am a musical theater superfan based in St. Louis, Missouri. And this is my YouTube channel where I share my thoughts on all of the musical productions I go out to see. In this video, I will be talking about Stray Dog Theater's production of Ruthless, which played at Tower Grove Abbey from August 1st through the 24th of 2024. Ruthless is an off-Broadway parody musical. It premiered in 1992, and it was created by composer Marvin Laird and librettist Joel Paley. Ruthless specifically is a parody of the story of the Bad Seed, the classic tale of an 8-year-old girl resorting to murder to get what she wants. But with Ruthless, their take on the Bad Seed is filtered through stories like Gypsy, All About Eve, The Valley of the Dolls, stories about these glamorous women divas in show business who are actually dying on the inside. The comedy stylings of Ruthless belong to the theater of the ridiculous. It's a form of experimental theater, where the content is very consciously, very obviously disturbing and loaded with shock factor. The acting is very broad, very over-the-top, reminiscent of melodrama, and with props and costumes that are highly intentionally surreal. Stray Dog Theater is no stranger to shows from the theater of the ridiculous, and Ruthless is right in their wheelhouse. Instead of Rhoda Penmark in The Bad Seed, Ruthless has Tina Denmark, a child prodigy who is a rising star of the musical stage. Tina is doted on by her loving mother, Judy. Her daughter is actually so famous that Judy has to answer the phone as Tina's mother, to the point that she constantly has to remind herself, her name is Judy. Like, Judy? Yes, that's my name, Judy. That's my name, Judy. Now, Judy is very perplexed as to how Tina is so talented, because Judy views herself as nothing more than this typical suburban housewife with really no talent to speak of, other than a penchant for cleaning to the point of obsessive compulsion and huffing lemon-scented furniture polish. One day, the Denmarks are suddenly visited by talent agent Sylvia St. Croix, who recognizes Tina's potential and wants to make her a full-blown superstar. With some reluctance, Judy allows Sylvia to be Tina's acting coach as Tina prepares to audition for the lead role in her elementary school musical, Pippi in Tahiti. It's an unofficial Pippi Longstocking musical that has been created and directed by Tina's third-grade teacher, Miss Myrna Thorne, who herself once had aspirations for Broadway, and now has grown frustrated with having to spend her days corralling a gaggle of snot-nosed brats. At the audition, however, Tina is appalled to find out that the role of Pippi Longstocking has already been cast. Fellow student Louise Lerman was cast as Pippi, purely because her wealthy parents are bankrolling the show for Miss Thorne, even though Louise, as a musical theater performer, is severely untalented. Now, Tina is still in the show, but she is playing a supporting role and serving as Louise's understudy. But Tina does learn from Sylvia that she can actually go on as Pippi if something were to happen to Louise. What happens next is wild. Tina grabs a jump rope, chases after Louise onto the theater's catwalk, and hangs her with the jump rope. But Tina is very quickly caught committing this act, and she is sentenced to the Daisy Clover School for Psychopathic Ingenues. A reference that, when I saw it, flew completely over my head, which I will talk about in a bit. Afterwards, a series of revelations occur, where we discover that Judy is actually not Judy Denmark, but rather Ginger Del Marco, the daughter of famous Broadway diva Ruth Del Marco, who was believed to have taken her own life, after a scathing review from theater critic Lita Encore, who is actually Judy's adoptive mother who hates musicals. She even has her own song about it, which is kind of ironic, and I'll talk about that too in a bit. After this is revealed, Judy, as Ginger, suddenly becomes a totally different person. She follows in her mother's footsteps to become a Tony Award-winning diva, complete with her own sycophantic personal assistant, Eve. But when Tina is released from reform school, Ginger now has to follow Tina's example to make sure that her newfound stardom does not fade away. Ruthless is camp. It's pure, unmitigated, melodramatic camp. The program for Stray Dog Theater's production actually has a disclaimer that reads, "This production contains smoke effects, replica firearms, loud noises, and children doing very bad things." Ruthless is a musical that does not take itself seriously at all, and despite the presence of a little girl in the cast, Ruthless is not a show for kids. Quite the opposite. It is very much for a mature audience. But it does take a little bit for that first bomb of mature humor to show up. Like, I do mean a bomb. Like, the first indication that Ruthless is a mature musical is Tina Denmark, this 8-year-old girl, dropping the F-bomb in disgust as it's revealed Louise is playing Pippi. And that's 20 to 30 some odd minutes into the first act for a musical that's well over 2 hours long. Now, the way that Ruthless begins is brilliant. We get Sylvia St. Croix entering through the audience and then begging that age-old question, is talent something you are born with or something that you are given to cultivate? And afterwards, we get the first song, with Judy answering the phone, constantly referring to herself as Tina's mother, obsessively cleaning the house, huffing her furniture polish, to the point where she almost goes full manic. Now, that's the first inkling in the show that tells us something is a little wrong here, like it's a little bit nutty. But the middle of Act 1 is where it really kicks into high gear, and I almost kind of wish it came a bit earlier. A big problem with the material is that the jokes, a lot of the time, overstay their welcome. Much of the show's humor comes from being in the know of the stories that they are referencing or outright parodying. And they are stories that were hugely famous in the camp and queer communities of mid-20th century America. But really, in 2024? Not so much. Remember how I said that the Daisy Clover School for Psychopathic Ingenues flew over my head? I had never heard of the story of Inside Daisy Clover until I had to write this review after seeing Ruthless. I don't think anyone under the age of 35 is going to get at least half of these references. Now, on the one hand, the jokes and references are very funny, enough to where they would want to warrant a bit of research into the source of the references and the material and all that. But on the other hand, you already don't know the references going into it. So, because of that, those jokes really do end up falling flat on their face. And there are also a lot of theater references in the show, appealing to the musical theater fanboy in me, and most of them are in Lita's song, I Hate Musicals. Now, the irony of a musical theater song about hating musicals is funny, but there are at least like 2 or 3 different reprises or playoffs of the same song until Lita exits the stage from her first appearance on stage. Even the song points this out in a lyric that is granted clever, but Ruthless is one of those stories where its plot takes like a million twists and turns a minute. You have to feel like you're being thrown into a roller coaster. Stray Dog's staging, however, by director Justin Bean, feels leisurely. Justin Bean's direction really milked the jokes for all that they're worth, which for a show like this is really not much. Something that I learned from my time playing Samwise Gamgee in Magic Smoking Monkey Theater's 1-hour Lord of the Rings trilogy is that when you have a comedy that is very front-loaded with jokes, like voluminous in jokes, and also a very madcap plot, you really want the show to move at a brisk pace so that you do not let the jokes sink in. Because if you don't keep up the pace, you kind of realize that these jokes and this plot is actually very hollow. But despite that, everything else about the production itself was really quite good. Starting with the cast, they have assembled an ensemble of 6 women, young and old, who have farce in their blood. We love an all-female comedian cast in this house. And all of them are masters at making this material, which is basically all just shtick, so much fun. And at the center of it all is our core trio, Judy, Tina, and Sylvia. Judy in this production is played by Jack Reviews Musical's Hall of Fame member, Sarah Jean Dowling. Her performance was utterly fearless. When she is playing Judy, Dowling is the very picture of the Donna Reed, Barbara Billingsley 50s housewife turned up to 11, gliding like a leaf on a breeze, with vocals that are bright and cheerful, and a personality that is slightly schizophrenic. And Dowling plays this mania with a truly cheek-aching smile. But when she's playing Ginger, she makes a complete 180 into Betty Davis as Margot Channing in All About Eve. She's this uber-confident, hyper-sexualized Broadway diva, complete with a cigarette holder that gets comically longer as the show goes on. And Dowling moves on stage with a sultriness and a seductive quality that is matched by a voice that is much deeper in her range, all filtered through an ego that is comically inflated and properly conniving. And Sarah Jean Dowling aces that ability to switch between these two extreme personalities and vocal ranges with conviction and effortlessness. Her performance as both Judy Denmark and Ginger Del Marco cements her place in the Hall of Fame. And now we have the stage mother of all bad seeds herself, 8-year-old Tina Denmark. However, in Stray Dogs production, the role is played by a teenager, Finley Moore. Finley Moore actually made her professional theater debut with this production, and good God, what a role to start your career off with. To put it into perspective, the original 1992 off-Broadway production featured 11-year-olds Laura Bell Bundy, Natalie Portman, and Britney Spears. Tina Denmark is a role that needs to be played by a child to preteen actress that is truly fearless, far beyond her years, and it's a talent that is difficult to cultivate or even find. So for Stray Dog, having Tina be played by a teenager was a smart move. And Finley Moore's performance was brilliant. Because she's still pretty young, she was able to age herself down to 8 years old rather convincingly, really hamming up Tina's artificial immaturity, with toothy expressions and a precocious demeanor that gives way to a sinister petulance. And Finley Moore completely holds her own against the older women in the cast. Finley Moore gave a committed performance that made Tina Denmark feel like a living, breathing little girl, despite her inherent insanity. This performance is going to make Finley Moore a name to watch out for if she continues to pursue a career in theater, which I hope she does. In most productions of Ruthless, Sylvia St. Croix is played as a drag role, but in the spirit of Stray Dogs production aiming for a cast of all-female comedians, the role is played here by Stray Dog veteran Sarah Jane Clarke. Stray Dog Theater's Sylvia St. Croix is an intensely sincere homage to Gloria Swanson as Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard. a fading star of old Hollywood dripping with decadence, a very demure physicality and vocal stylings that are complemented by highly sarcastic dialogue that Sarah Jane Clarke pulls off. Even though Sylvia St. Croix is a role that's nothing more than a few one-liners and a sneer, Clarke does make the character feel driven with her own motives and goals that make her legitimately compelling to watch. Sarah Jane Clarke, Finley Moore, and Sarah Jean Dowling made for a fantastic core trio. Even the three featured actresses in their production all gave diverse performances that were great to watch. The disgruntled third grade teacher, Miss Myrna Thorne, is played by Anna Langdon. Anna Langdon's performance truly makes palpable Miss Thorne's frustration with her lot in life, especially in the moments on stage where she has to smile through the pain. Her comical levels of exasperation makes her outbursts feel rightfully earned, which makes them funny. Definitely reminds me of teachers that I have had in school growing up, so kudos to Anna Langdon for really making this role her own, in spite of the little stage time that she is on. The musical-hating theater critic, Lita Encore, is played by Laura Cairo, in an homage to Gypsy's Mama Rose, as was played by Stephen Sondheim's mortal enemy, Ethel Merman. And Laura Cairo nails that impression too, throwing all of the haughty, self-centered snark that she can muster into this role, and she is hysterical. Sarah Landsberger plays the dual roles of Louise Lerman and Ginger's PA, Eve. And both of these roles Landsberger expertly handles, with excellent physical comedy. The earnestness with which Landsberger plays these characters, with Louise being very dim-witted and Eve being this creepy, obsessive fangirl, makes it all that much more hilarious when both characters get what they deserve. The entire cast made for a fully cohesive ensemble that looked like they were having the time of their lives performing this material. And each of them gets a special showcase song where they show off their vocal talents, their dance skills, and physical comedy chops. And the songs themselves are actually very catchy and quite memorable. The choreography that some cast members pull off in this production was conceived by Sarah Ray Womack, and the movements that she conceived were actually quite delightful, including Tina's first big song, the tap number, Born to Entertain. Sarah Jean Dowling has hilarious turns with Tina's mother as Judy and It Will Never Be That Way Again as Ginger. Sarah Jane Clarke delivers the confidence in her signature songs Talent and I Want the Girl, and there are also some great duets. Judy and Sylvia have Where Tina Gets It From, and Judy and Tina have Parents and Children. Anna Langdon's increasingly bitter portrayal of Miss Thorne's big song Teaching Third Grade was thrilling. Sarah Landsberger makes strong comic turns with her character's big songs, the Pippi song with Louise, and A Penthouse Apartment as Eve. The musical direction by Randon Lane, spot on. The production is accompanied by a four-piece combo that felt so dynamic and full of range, fully supporting these 6 women without overpowering them, which is really important for a musical comedy as insane as this. Randon Lane proved himself to be a capable leader of the Stray Dog Band, with himself on piano, Mike Hansen on percussion, Joshua Ryan on the bass, and Mary Jewel Wiley on the reeds. And the music is augmented by sound design from director Justin Bean, who utilized a lot of the swelling strings from 50s movie soundtracks to amp up the melodrama, and it is very, very funny. Stray Dog Theater sells the kitschiness of Ruthless from the very beginning, right when you walk into Tower Grove Abbey, with the set by Rob Lippert, which is a marvel of mid-century modern camp. The set very cleverly switches from the Denmark family home in Act 1 to Ginger's New York City penthouse in Act 2, with consistent visual motifs throughout that are so full of character. Both settings have lemon yellow walls, starburst wall decorations, the designs of which for each set being very different. There's a bar cart that switches out different liquor and glassware, the penthouse has a leopard print chair, and the table behind the sofa has a bowl of lemons that is present in both locations. Even the access points behind the center door are very different. The Denmark home has a latticework fence covered in vines behind the door, and in the penthouse they have a hallway with a spherical light fixture. This actually leads to a hilarious visual moment in Act 2, courtesy of lighting designer Tyler Dino. When the penthouse door opens to reveal Tina, the entire stage goes dark, except for the hallway light and a lightning crash that only illuminates Tina, who is livid. This reveal was hysterically funny. Like, literally, for the entire minute that Tina was on stage after she enters Act 2, I was practically laughing on the floor. Tyler Dino's lighting was also very effective at indicating whenever we are in the school theater, and also the special lights whenever the characters break the fourth wall, especially for Sylvia scenes. Both the set and the lighting achieve a significant amount of attention to detail. To pull that off on a stage as small as Tower Grove Abbey, while still indicating a consistent visual identity throughout, is what cements both Rob Lippert and Tyler Dino's places in the Hall of Fame. The lemon motif in Rob Lippert's set continues into Colleen Michelson's costumes. Judy's costume in Act 1 consists of a lemon print dress with yellow heels, complete with an oversized strand of pearls to sell the housewife caricature. From what I've gathered, the visual motif of lemons is only unique to Stray Dogs production. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Lemons are sweet on the outside, sour on the inside. They're tart, but with a soft shell. And it was also a popular design choice for many mid-century modern homes and fashion. Having that level of symbolism in this production, indicated entirely through the visuals, independent of the script, really shows just how much respect Stray Dog Theater has for the theater of the ridiculous. And the rest of Colleen Michelson's costumes are packed with flair. And she even does a great job of distinguishing every character with their own specific style, and color scheme even. When Judy turns into Ginger, she is outfitted in a glittery black split leg dress. She has her hair down with slightly different makeup, and Sarah Jean Dowling was positively stunning. Sylvia is dressed entirely in black and white throughout the show, with gorgeous dresses complete with gloves, hats, and turbans that are peak Norma Desmond. Tina is consistently outfitted in a bow dress, complete with a hair bow and black patent leather shoes. In Act 1, her dress is red with white polka dots, but in Act 2, her dress is matte black with white accessories, both to show her ex-convict status and to indicate her change in attitude between acts. Lita is dressed in royal purple evening dresses. Miss Thorne is consistently dressed in a lovely shade of depression blue. Louise Lerman is dressed in a plain brown jumper that constantly gets in her way. Eve, by contrast, is outfitted in a comically short, comically tight emerald green dress. All in all, I had a fun time with Ruthless. I mean, I laughed a lot, though I also have to put it into perspective and say that much of the fun came from the cast and just how marvelous the visuals are. But it really does bear repeating that Ruthless is a musical that has not aged well. Now, it will continue to be produced for reasons that are valid. Like, it is a laugh machine, particularly for people who grew up with the stories that the show is parodying. It's a great show for an all-female cast to sink their teeth into really memorable characters. It gives a chance for production designers to steady mid-century modern aesthetics. And the score, even though it is twisted, is cute. I would recommend that you give it a listen. There are some great zingers in the score. but the material is propelled by dated references that make the overall experience feel quaint. And Stray Dog Theater's production definitely relishes in the shtick a bit too reverently. But the cast performs the material with aplomb. They fully inhabited these crazed personalities, charming their way through gleefully ironic songs set against a brilliant production design. It made Stray Dog Theater's production of Ruthless a wickedly fun time at the theater. Did you see Stray Dog Theater's production of Ruthless? If so, what did you think about it? Comment below, let me know. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. My website, jackreviewsmusicals.com. All of my reviews are there, including the written reviews that I have published since the start of 2022. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more St. Louis Musical Theater reviews coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, long live the musical, or else.